Advocates in the anti-poverty community say lawmakers aren't doing enough to help people escape poverty. They say the inaction is increasing the number of Alice families in Arkansas and nationwide. Alice families are asset limited, income constrained, and employed, which means they're working but don't earn enough money to cover their expenses. Wade Rathke with the nonprofit Acorn International says lawmakers need to adjust the federal poverty line to assist more people.
If the poverty line doesn't reflect reality, then people suffer. Some members of Congress have advanced a bill to more realistically set the poverty level, but given the dysfunction and general election year inertia, there hasn't even been a vote.
He says many states, especially in the South, are setting benefits as low as possible. The current federal poverty line is $31,200 a year for a family of four. According to the United Way, in 2021, about 36 million households met the criteria to be labeled Alice. The organization has seen a significant increase in calls to its 211 call centers from people seeking help with housing, child care, and utilities. Blackness says more families are suffering now that pandemic subsidies are gone.
Even working families with income over $100,000 are calling because they can't make groceries given all of household costs. Two-worker parented families have no savings or ability to handle emergencies.
Advocates say part of the problem is that the cost of groceries is used to determine the poverty line, but families are spending more on housing, rent, and utilities. I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org. All of my steps say your word, please. Every day.
wash my heart. Show me. Yes, we got Order My Steps coming in. Oh my goodness. A tribute to gospel legend Al Hobbs. The choir, GMWA, is who I remember singing the song Order My Steps, getting us ready for our conversation today, right here live in Community Voices on KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people. I'm rolling solo this morning. I don't have a guest. I don't have Tony. It's just me rolling solo in the house this morning. I do need to make some announcements. Oh, but I can't do anything. I can't make any announcements until I first say to you how grateful we are for your presence in this space. However you show up for us, with all of the different ways that you show up for us, we are super excited about your encouragement, about your challenges, about your pushback, about your support, about your compliments, like all that you do to keep us alive right here at KABF 88.3 FM. We are grateful for that. And we don't ever want you to think that we are ignoring you or that we don't recognize you. We are always very, very grateful and honored and privileged to share this space with you. So thank you for joining us. I do have a few announcements that I need to make. One of them is from CALS. These are all CALS events right now. These first couple of ones, these are CALS events. Central Arkansas Library System. That's what CALS stands for, Central Arkansas Library System. Lawyers in the Library on November 13th from 10 a.m. to D. Brown Library. That's all it says. So I'm going to assume that if you have some kind of legal issues that you need to discuss and you don't have access to a professional attorney, you've got professional attorneys right here that are willing to grant you access to them to discuss whatever your legal matters are, and they will help you right there on the spot. To the best of their abilities, November 13th at 10 a.m. at the D. Brown Library. Also, the Central Arkansas Library System wants you to think about and consider, and please join them on Wednesday, November 6th from 12 to 1 p.m. Legacies and Lunch, Mapping Little Rock History. Archivist James Wethington will demonstrate how to explore the past and present city of Little Rock with a new project, Mapping Little Rock. Participate in person or virtually, and please bring your lunch. So this is like a lunch and learn. It's Legacies and Lunch. Bring your own lunch. Mapping Little Rock History on Wednesday, November 6th from 12 noon to 1 p.m. Early voting started on October 21st and it will continue until November 2nd. Early voting for the 2024 general election begins October 21st and runs through November 2nd. You can vote early between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. Go to votepulaskiar.gov to search your voting location. Convenient voting sites include D. Brown Library, Roosevelt Thompson Library, William F. Lehman Library, Sidney S. McMath Library, Jacksonville Community Center, Pulaski County Regional Building, First Christian Church of Sherwood, Hillary Clinton Children's Library, John Gould Fletcher Library, Adolphine Fletcher Terry Library, Dunbar Recreation Center, Jess Odom Community Center, and Shorter College. Avoid the long lines and cast your vote early. Your voice matters, so let it be heard. Early voting is from October 21st to November 2nd from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at a location near you. KABF 88.3 FM presents Midnight Marauders and Enter the 36 Chambers album release anniversary party, celebrating the two iconic hip-hop albums that shook the world. When November 9th, where the Lobby Bar, also known as the Studio Theater, 320 West 7th Street in downtown Little Rock, from 7 to 10 p.m. Music by DJ IV, Sonder Ponder, Ronnie Gold, Jordan Jocks, Deontay Boom, and Baba Fly. Tickets are available at Eventbrite, and this event is benefiting KABF 88.3 FM. That's Midnight Marauders and Enter the 36 Chambers, album release party, anniversary party on November 9th from 7 to 10 p.m. Bring on the goodies. All donations are welcome and appreciated. Trunk and treat with ACA, the Arkansas Community Advocates. Everyone is welcome. Wear your costume, shop our free store, get a free meal, and get some treats. This is October 27th, which is tomorrow it's October 27th. Is that gone? Yeah, that's over. We probably need to clean this out. That's over. Okay, forget about trunk and treat. The last announcement that I have is about the Midnight Marauders and the Enter the 36 Chambers album release party, anniversary party, which is happening on, have y'all been hearing me all this time? Because I had that other thing on. I hope y'all heard me. Have y'all heard me all this time for 12 minutes? Okay. That's happening from 7 to 10 p.m. Okay, I do also get in the EJI tidbit every week. I want to make sure that I read for you a tidbit from the Equal Justice Initiative library museum's calendar that they publish every single year. For those of you interested in receiving more than just the tidbit, there is a link that I can send you or share with you, or you can send me your email address and I will register you for the link that will come to your computer and come to your email address every single morning. And it has way more information. It's a much deeper dive into what happened on this particular day and in this particular year than what I offer you on Tuesdays. I only take the time to lift up the tidbit, but this is one of the outreach programs from the Legacy Museum, the Equal Justice Initiative, which also is responsible for the Legacy Museum, which is housed in Montgomery, Alabama, which is a museum dedicated to the history, the historical injustice that we have, that we continue to tend with right here in the United States of America and all across the world. And it gives us an opportunity to ground ourselves in the reality of who we are as a world, as a people, as humans, and the atrocities that we have perpetrated against each other, and that we continue to do so. And so this tidbit is an arm of their programming for their particular organization and their initiative to make sure that we realize and we recognize, and until we are able to have honest conversations about who we are, who we have been, and who we continue to be, and who we will continue to be if we do not change things, we can't. Like, this will be our future. We are doomed to repeat it as we continue to repeat it even now. It reminds me of last Wednesday. I'm taking a class, an art class, at the museum, Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts, every single Wednesday. And on last Wednesday, tomorrow's my last day, and we have this huge project that's due, and the project is about the 4 seasons. So we're supposed to take color. We're supposed to use color to represent each one of the 4 seasons. And we're supposed to let the colors show you the different ways that you can experience these seasons through color. And so we're using tints and tones and shades and complements, and we're going to be analogous in some places and complementary in some places. Like, that's what we're called to do. And as part of that, our instructor decided it would be great for us to have a curator meet us upstairs so that we can go through the triumph of nature, not go through the exhibit, but just this one piece in the exhibit, which is called it's called the Four Seasons. So just kind of to ground us in what we're going to have to do on tomorrow, he thought it would be great for us to have this curator talk us through what this particular exhibit is about. That's still on display. So those of you who have not been, when you walk in the front door, it's on the 3rd floor. You walk in, it's on your left. You walk in and you kind of take a right and you kind of keep going till you see this little, it's on like that first panel. Maybe it's the second panel on the left, but they're the Four Seasons. But it's worthwhile. It's worth a look. I think any exhibit is worth a look, and you can have whatever kind of conversation you want to have about it. But to be inspired by the conversation is what the art is expected to do: inspire you to talk about it. And when we got there, it was interesting because the curator took it up on herself. Now, remember I said we were going just so that we could see the exhibit called the Four Seasons. That's the only reason we were supposed to be in there. But the curator decided, I can't remember her name, she decided that she wanted to first stop us at the beginning outside of the door to set the tone for the conversation by reminding us of what was happening during those years that that gave rise to this exhibit. And so she began to talk about the colors that were born. They talked about the artist. She began to talk about all of that. And as I was listening to her, I'm thinking to myself, well, okay, well, if you want to talk, if this is the era that you want to talk about, I just want to see what all you're going to tell us. And so I let her say everything that she was going to say. I did not interrupt her. I did not ask any questions. I did not say one word. We walked in and she said, oh, I also want to stop you right here. She stopped us at the very first exhibit that you will see if you just keep going straight. In this case, it's a lamp and it's got all of these different little bulbs on it that are different colors. And it is from the person who gave rise to the Tiffany and Company Foundation Corporation that we have even now. So this is like the father of or the grandfather of the person who started that company that people love even to today. And so I did not ask any questions. I did not say anything. I did not interrupt her. Finally, we get to the Four Seasons. Now, this is why we are really here. We talk about it. And then she says, I don't have anything else to say. That's all I have. That is when I said, well, I have something to say. I have a question for you. She's like, okay, sure. She was so excited. Go ahead, sure. I said, well, you wanted to ground this, you chose to ground this conversation in what was happening during this time. And you chose to talk about Tiffany and Company, which is an organization, a company that is alive and well today. And you wanted to make sure that we were clear on what was happening during the time that gave rise to what is now probably one of the most iconic companies that we know of in this year, 2024. I said, but what you did not mention is anything about the system of enslavement that was also alive and well during that time, and also slave labor that was used in the production of some of these figurines that we are around here admiring, that also gave rise to this company that is iconic. Like, you haven't said anything about those. You have rendered an entire group of people invisible while you are honoring these images and you're arguing these figurines, and you haven't said one word. So my question to you is, why did you choose to omit that information on purpose? Why were you intentional about not saying that? So while I was asking that question, she kept trying to cut me off. But I wouldn't let her. I would not let her keep me from getting out everything that I wanted to say in the presence of the instructor as well as my classmates. I think it's only 5 of us. So 4 others of us, plus the instructor. And I was talking to the curator and whoever else was in the room, because there were some people that were just enjoying the exhibit, and there were some people who worked there. So I wanted to make sure I said everything that I had to say before I asked her why she intentionally did not mention the system of enslavement and the slave labor that was being used for all of this stuff that she was so excited to share. And she tried to stumble away. But finally she had to say, you are right, I should have. Right? And then she started talking about all the things she should have said. So now she wants to include these things. At this point I'm like, And then she says this, but it's really a difficult conversation to have. And I said, yes. It is a difficult conversation to have, but it's also our reality, and it is also our history, and it is also accurate. Like, it is verifiable. Like it's documented, it's very well documented. And so I told her that you not only are you a curator of the museum, like you get to select which pieces, but you are also a curator of memory. You get to choose what you want us to remember. So you chose intentionally not to mention this because you don't want us to remember. And so again, it was awkward for everybody in the room except me. It wasn't awkward for me because difficult conversations, I mean, they should be part of our everyday life. We have difficult conversations about our children. We have difficult conversations about our relationships. We have all kinds of difficult conversations. Why can't we have a difficult conversation around race and the history of it and the presence of it and the intended future of it if we don't rise up the way that we need to. And so, yes, she did say, yes, I should have said this, I should have said that. At that point, I was done. I felt like my job was done. I said, my job, yes. I feel like those of us who know, we have a responsibility to raise the issue, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes a person, regardless of how awkward it is in the moment, regardless of what you may even be feeling in your body, knowing that you're standing alone in that moment. Nobody was supporting me. Nobody was co-signing with me. Nobody was doing anything. Everybody's just looking at me. But in that moment, we have a responsibility to raise the issue, to put it on the table, to confront what is our truth. How else can we work through it? How else can we get past it? People keep saying, well, y'all need to get over it. It's really interesting to me how white people in particular will say to me that why can't we get over the system of chattel enslavement, which lasted for years, like for centuries, and then the outgrowth of it, the fallout of it, the vestiges of it that we still are impacted by today. They don't know why we can't get over it, but then they want to talk about 911. Never forget. I'm like, ain't there one day? Now you want us to remember this one. We got museums, we have days dedicated, we got all kind of anniversary celebrations that we do, all of these memorials that we do for one day. But you want us to get over centuries of injustice. Yeah, that's just something to think about. And so I want to ground our space in not just the song Order My Steps, I'll talk about that in a minute, but also on August 29th, which is today is August 29th, but in 1869, this is November, no, this is October 29th, 1869, Black Georgia legislator Abram Colby is publicly assaulted and whipped for promoting equal rights. Did you hear what I said? On this day in 1869, Black Georgia legislator Abram Colby is publicly assaulted and whipped for promoting equal rights. Publicly assaulted, and that means people looking at him, being humiliated, being dehumanized, being defamed, being ridiculed. Like, people are watching this because he had the audacity to say we want to, that we should have equal rights. And this is in 1869. And so this, we were talking about the triumph of nature, this exhibit that's in Arkansas Museum of Fine Arts. It's during this time. 1869, I think they started, the stuff in there is maybe 1880, but that is the product of it, right? And so this was happening as we're talking about it. So we say 1869 as if it doesn't impact us today, like, oh, that was a long time ago, but I'm looking at this exhibit that you can go see right now on 9th Street, 501 East 9th Street, that is a product of the time. So while we're in there making sure that we say, ooh and ah, look how beautiful, we don't need to leave out the story of the people that helped make that possible, right? We have to have these stories, we have to have these conversations. And the song that I chose on purpose this morning is Order My Steps. It is a gospel song. Yeah, gospel song. What's the difference between gospel and Christian? Because gospel music is usually rooted in the Bible. I think it's probably just style, and Christian music is usually attributed to white folks. Gospel is usually attributed to Black folks. But, all people can sing all manner of music. I get that. But Order My Steps, like I said, I know it from listening to the GMWA Mass Choir sing it. This one was in tribute to Mr. Hobbs. But it was played, the pianist at the funeral, the homegoing celebration, the celebration of life, whatever words you all use for the service of a person whose energy has shifted so that we no longer see them physically present among us as we walk on this planet. It was for that service, for the Alma Mother Shed Where, that the pianist that was there was playing it while we were gathering in the space. And before everything started, before the program started, the pianist was playing it. And just like any other person, I'm assuming the same thing happens to you, that the music is in the background. You're really not paying much attention to it, especially if you have a distinguished gentleman sitting beside you, like I did with Mr. Henderson, and you're talking and you are just, gathering in this space, just kind of settling in to what you know is about to happen. So it took a few minutes for me to really hone in on the song and be like, oh my goodness, I know exactly what song this is. And I started humming a little bit, singing a little bit, because this song has been, especially when I was a very rigid Christian, when I was a strict, very indoctrinated Christian. It was important to me to grab hold to songs like this and to make sure that I was feeding them into my soul so that it would help me guard my eye gate, my ear gate, my mouth gate. Like, that's kind of where I was when I first learned the song. But this turns out to be one of Thelma Mother Shed Ware's Dr. Ware's Hey Hotep, I See You, one of her favorite songs. And even during the eulogy, her family, her kinsmen, aligned a couple of the stanzas to remind us of the importance of this word. And so ordering her steps was, you could see it as this is my guiding light. This is my guiding principle, that I am going to give myself over to my God so that everything that I do is done in a way that allows me to walk the path that was created for me when I was created. So God's will for my life says that this is the way I'm supposed to walk. This is the way I'm supposed to talk. This is what I'm supposed to do. Like, I want to make sure that I never lose sight of the mission and purpose of my life, which was given to me by my Creator. And so it is important for her to know this and to remind herself of this, and to let her life be this message to other people, anyone with whom she interacts. And so I think it was actually a beautiful story, a beautiful message, a beautiful way to think about her life. What I know from research, because I never met her. So just what I know, being able to hear the words and to see the family and to sit with folks and to share this sacred space together was holy. It was a holy moment. In fact, I thought that I wasn't going to be able to find a seat. I got there early still, but I thought I wasn't going to be able to find a seat. I thought that I wasn't going to be able to find a park. I thought that the sanctuary, it was at Pulaski Heights United Methodist Church, I thought they were going to have to sit people in the choir stand. Like, I thought they were going to have to sit people in the tunnel. I thought they were going to have an overflow room where they had a camera video so that people could be linked in, those of us who were going to be late. Like, that's what I thought I was gonna run into, and that was not the case at all. Oh, look at what Lo says. Lo says, every time an elder dies, a library dies with them. Every time an elder dies, a library dies with them. I think that that's only true if the elder does not share the stories. Because if the elder is sharing the stories as part of oral tradition that especially is real and alive in those of us from African descent, then the library doesn't have to die with them, because we'll carry those stories. And I know I carry the stories of my ancestors. I carry the stories that I read about my ancestors. So I'm not sure that I agree that the library dies. But if your sentiment is we lose a valuable resource, then I could say, yeah, I get that. I absolutely can see where you're coming from on that. And so I was really shocked. Okay, yes, that's what you're saying. Okay, I got you. So I was shocked that there was so much room in the space. I'm like, why aren't we here? Even one of the funeral directors where I was sitting, he said, he walked up to I was sitting on the edge, right beside me, and said to other funeral directors, from here back, we're gonna leave this for the dignitaries, from here to wherever. He was designating a space. And so I just looked at him, and then he looked at me and said, oh, well, ma'am, I'm not gonna make you move because you already here. And I was like, surely my face said I wasn't moving anyway, but okay, we're gonna be nice. We were being nice. And nobody ever came to sit beside Mr. Henderson and I. Like, where were the dignitaries? I know Mayor Scott, I think people consider him a dignitary. He spoke, so he was there. Elizabeth Eckford, one of the other Little Rock Nine, Terrence Roberts, one of the Little Rock Nine. They were there. They were seated up front on the left. I know they are dignitaries, but Joy Springer was there because she is the basilisk, the president of the chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Incorporated, of which Mother Shed Ware, Mrs. Dr. Mother Shed Ware, is a member. So she was there. So where were we? Where was the community? Like, at a time like this, when this space, much like the art museum, where someone has curated meaning we have carefully selected what we're going to do in this space for such a time as this. So somebody decided that this is how we are going to design this program so that people can walk through this ceremony with us, this memorial with us, this funeral with us, with whatever word best fits your way of practicing your faith, or fits even if you don't practice faith. Whatever word you need. And so we're carefully choosing these songs. We're choosing the people who are going to speak. We're choosing who is going to play. We're choosing all of this. We're curating. We're selecting it carefully so that someone else can come and have this experience with us. And this experience itself, we believe to be something that is living, that will live in us for as long as it lives in us, right? Forever and ever, as long as it lives in us. So it's always living in us. We just don't always remember it, right? So things are living in us, and then we have to be reminded of them, or something jolts it within us so that it comes up to our, it's brought to the forefront of our minds. And so I was just really surprised that there weren't very many people. But I showed up at 10 for the Ivy Beyond the Wall ceremony. That is, for those of us who are members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, we call it Ivy Beyond the Wall. I'm sure that every fraternity and sorority has this ceremony where one of our members, one of our brothers, one of our sisters, one of our fellow fraternity members, sorority members, their energy shifts, and so we gather together just to remember them as one of us and to be one with them. This was my very first Ivy Beyond the Wall ceremony. Could have had one for my mama, but I didn't even think about it. We were not active anyway. I haven't been active since 1992 when I got suspended off the campus of Jackson State University for hazing, and that's a whole nother story for another day. Here is Lo. She should have been laid in state, whether at the state capitol or city hall, to give her the honor and dignity for the life she led. Listen to that. She should have been laid in state, whether at the state capitol or city hall, to give her the honor and dignity for the life she led. I absolutely agree with that. 100% agree with that. That is not what happened, though. And even if she were laying in state, would we have gone to see her then? We didn't show up for Pulaski Heights. Caller, you're live on the air, KABF 88.3 FM. This is sorry. Caller, call us back. I think I was probably in the middle of talking to Lo when you called. Now, don't get me wrong. No judgment, no shame for people who did not show up. I'm just telling you what I was thinking as I was sitting there in front of, because remember, I told you this is the first one this is the first celebration of life I've been to for one of the Little Rock Nine. So there's no shame. I'm just telling you that I was wondering, when we're talking about memory, when we're talking about history, when we're talking about legacy, the announcement I read about legacy and lunch, the story I told about the museum, and then this tidbit, like all of this is about memory. All of this is about history. All of this is about who we are and how we are together. And so for this to be one of the icons in this community, for us not to think that, oh man, why wasn't I there? Like, why did I not show up? Like, you have to answer that question for yourself. But wonder why she wasn't laid in state, whether it was in the Capitol or City Hall. Wonder why. And so I wanted to share that song about ordering our steps, because I do want to take a moment to say that when we think about memory and when we think about what we remember and how we remember, I want us to make sure, especially thinking about this song, Order My Steps, as one of the favorite songs of Dr. Thelma Mother Shed Ware, that she believed that this was her mission and her passion to make sure she was ordering her steps according to the will for her life by her creator. If we're going to talk about that, then that means we have to unremember what we have been indoctrinated to believe about who God is in this present world. Because when we talk about who God is, especially if we root it in the system of religion that we call Christianity, then who God is in that context, the indoctrinated God that many of us continue to serve, is a racist God. That God is one who continues to promote slavery, even in the words that we use at church. I'm a slave for Christ, right? Like we have to remember that we need to unremember. And so if we want to live into the power and the purpose of what Dr. Mother Shed Ware is saying through her message by ordering my steps, I want to remind people that I have a destiny, I have a divinity that's greater than this world, that has nothing to do with these laws, these arbitrary laws that you make in order to continue to control me, because you have a misunderstanding, you have a warped understanding, you have a lie that you believe about who God is, especially in the form of Jesus, and especially when we talk about being empowered by the Holy Spirit who's supposed to live in us as we walk this earth. And so it's important for me to make sure that I say that we, regardless of what your faith is, that higher power, we have to remember that we have been forced to forget who that higher power really is, how that higher power really functions, and we are now operatives. So we're operating on behalf of somebody else's understanding of God, which is rooted and grounded in systems of exclusion and domination and oppression. And so we have to take the time to say, let me stop and think about what I'm doing. Let me read this with an open mind. Let me go back to this. Let me do some research. Let me read other books. Let me share other stories. Let me have other conversations. That this religion that I think I know is much bigger than I am. And I need to make sure that if I'm going to live into it fully, that I'm doing it with a purity of understanding, which means that my understanding is not rooted in what I remember my mom and them telling me, what I remember the pastor and them telling me, but what I am coming to learn for myself, because I have so much more information now, I can consider all these things and decide for myself how I want to live out my faith. And so it's important for me to say that as we think about ordering our steps, because one of the ways that we can order our steps is to make sure that we are included, that we are participatory in the process, the civic engagement process that also contributes to how our steps are ordered. Because we want to say, well, my steps are ordered by God. If you say that, then that means that everything that happens in your life, then you say, you have to quote Paul, and this we know, Romans 8:28. And this we know, all things work together. So if that is your understanding, if that is how you remember to practice your faith, then that means you think that God put the people in place that are making these laws that are keeping you from living your abundant life that was promised in John. So we have to begin now. Well, we should have already begun, and some of us have, but for those of us who haven't, it is high time for us to think about our faith in a much more broader sense. Think about how our faith orders our path in every aspect of our lives. And one of those paths is the civic engagement process, which is why it's so important for us to vote. It's absolutely important for us to vote. Lo says, now you know that you should not question God. You know that you should not question God. Yes, I was indoctrinated to believe that. But that's one of the reasons that I became United Methodist, because Methodism does allow for the Wesleyan quadrilateral, which includes 1/4 of the shield of faith being reason. And so in that faith, in the United Methodist Church, I'm sure it's others, but I can only talk about my own experience. You have an opportunity. You have the right. You are given permission. You are highly encouraged to engage the text, to ask questions, to ask God, to question God, to say, like, wait a minute, does this make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, then let's talk about why it's even in this book. And if it doesn't matter, like, let's just exclude, like, we don't have to talk about it. Like, we can get rid of it. Like, there's so many ways that we can allow logic and reason to shape our faith if we give ourselves permission. I'm giving you permission, but you have to give yourself permission to say, just because I was taught this, just because this is the way I remember my faith, it is now time for us to say, but there's a way that I can also unremember it and unlearn it so that I can feed myself something new that feeds me, that serves me in ways that this particular religion no longer serves most of us, the majority of us. It absolutely does not. So Lo says, did Moses question God on the mount? It's a lot of people that question God. Job. It's a lot of people that question Elizabeth. So again, that's why it's important for me to say to us, what we remember about our faith right now is what we've been indoctrinated to believe. And so we are going to have to unremember, unlearn some things so that we can begin to curate, carefully select what it is that we need to place deep down in our souls that will help us live our lives according to the path that we are divinely appointed to walk, that comes from something greater than who we are, whatever you call that greater. And part of that process is the voting process, because in the way that we live, in the way that this world has been curated for us, then we have these laws that also shape us. So how do we participate in a way that frees people up to live the way that they were destined to live, not by no constitution, oh my goodness, but by however you believe you got here, through creation, however you believe you got here. And so I want to read for you, since early voting has already started, I reached out to Attorney Humphrey, Marion Humphrey Sr., because he usually puts together, he usually curates, carefully selects for us, and makes recommendations. These are recommendations, these are suggestions from him on who we should vote for. Early voting started on October 21st. It is currently in play right now. It will be until November 2nd, meaning that any place that is conducting the polls, you can go and vote. You don't have to wait for Tuesday, November 5th, which would be the time that you have to go to your appointed polling place. Right now, during early voting, any of those from that list, you can go and vote. And I hope the lines are long for you like it was for me. That was really great. But here is a list that Attorney Humphrey curated, and I asked for, he gave to me. I'm also going to tell you what Dawn Jeffries suggests, who she suggests, because she has it posted on her Facebook page. And then there's something that I know about Judge Griffin about how it relates to voting. And so those three sources I want to lift up right now as we talk through, really not talk through, I just want to give you this list of people for whom it is recommended, it is suggested for you to vote, and for issues and on how to vote for them for our guests. So President and Vice President, the suggestion, the recommendation is that you vote for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. For United States Congress in the 1st District, Rodney Govins. In the 2nd District, Marcus Jones. Dawn Jeffries also agrees that Marcus Jones is the person to vote for in the 2nd District. In the 3rd District, Caitlin Draper. 4th District, Rizey Howard. For State Treasurer, John Pagan. In the State House of Representatives, District 69, Kwame Abdul-Bey. District 71, Cassandra D. Green. District 75, Ashley Hudson. District 78, James Bartolome. District 81, Gina Thomas Littlejohn. District 82, Samuel Brazel Jr. The Justice of the Peace in District 4, Julie Blackwood. The Little Rock Board of Directors, Position 9, City Director Antoine Phillips. Little Rock Board of Directors, Position 10, Blake Tierney. And this is where Dawn Jeffries also agrees with Attorney Humphrey. You should vote for Blake Tierney for Position 10 on the Little Rock Board of Directors. The annual school election, Little Rock District, the suggestion from Humphrey is to vote for it. The State Supreme Court Chief Justice, Justice Karen Baker, Don also agrees with that. Justice Karen Baker for State Supreme Court Chief Justice. Court of Appeals Judge District 6, Molly McNulty. Don Jeffries agrees with that. And then Circuit Judge District 6, Division 17, Robert Cortinez II. Robert Cortinez II. Now, for the constitutional amendment, issue 1, Don and Attorney Humphrey say vote yes, vote for. You're either voting for it or you're voting against it. And then the constitutional amendment, issue 2, there is no recommendation from Humphrey, but I recommend that you vote no. And then against. Constitution Amendment issue 3, voting for. And then the special election Little Rock question 1, special election Little Rock question 2. Now here is where Attorney Humphrey says you should vote for them. And this is the tax one. This is about the 3/8 tax. It's about the 5/8 tax. So when you go to the polls, when you are voting, there will be 2 opportunities. You have to vote for or against twice. One is for the 5/8 tax. One is for the 3/8 tax. I think the 3/8 tax is going to show up first. But if you're pretty much, if you're going to vote for it, you're going to vote for both of them, the 5/8 and the 3/8. If you're going to vote against, pretty much you're going to vote against for both of them. And so the suggestion from Humphrey is that you vote for the tax. I am against the tax. And so is Griffin. I'm strongly against the tax. And so is Griffin, strongly against the tax. And if you are watching the commercials on TV, even if you're streaming, I'm streaming TV and I still see the commercials. They are, they're calling it the results of the rock, results in the rock. That's the campaign that is promoting the tax. And they're asking you to vote for twice. That's what they're asking you to do. And you hear them in the commercial. Some of them try to slide it in. Some of them say it outright. Some of them ramble on like a long list of things. And they're talking about how they want the tax because it includes a measure for public safety. Anytime you hear somebody say it's about public safety, they're telling you they're going to amp up law enforcement, which means that we're going to continue to live in these occupied states throughout the United States and the world. We're going to continue to see an uptick in the way law enforcement is allowed to brutalize, to dehumanize, and to just wreak havoc in our lives just because. And for those of us who are of African descent, I mean in Black in the broadest definition of the word, then this is a continued legacy. So when we talk about what we choose not to tell people, when we're talking about history, and so we are fighting against a government all over this world that does not want us to remember the accuracy of who we are. That's why they're banning books. That's why they are attacking public schools. That's why they are attacking public libraries. They want to curate. They want to carefully select for us what to remember, what we can talk about, and what we need to forget for their sake. But I'm not going to allow them to do it, as many of us are not going to allow them to do it. So when we talk about public safety, they're talking about the continued role of law enforcement in such a negative, powerful way in our lives. There's a way that we can have law enforcement and be in right relationship with them. I'm not opposed to that at all. But right now, we are not in right relationship with them. This relationship is absolutely skewed. So the first 10 years of this tax that they're asking you to vote for is devoted to law enforcement and giving them some more vehicles. They want to give them some more vehicles and it's some more stuff in there. But I'm like, what? And then it's going to last for 10 years. It's going to last for a long time. Tax going to last for a long time. And then later on, they say they are going to consider whether or not they want to use the money to work on the homeless problem in our midst. And now, if you watch the commercial makes it sound like, yes, we're gonna work on public safety. Yes, we're gonna attack the homeless problem. No, but if you read the document, that's not the language that is used. The first thing we're gonna do is make sure we get these new vehicles for law enforcement, make sure we build another firehouse for the firefighters. Like, those are the things that are first and foremost. And then later on, we will consider, the language is not direct at all in the document that I read. Probably by now they may have edited it, revised it, but when I read it, it was not at all a promise that we were gonna work on the homeless situation. It was something that would be up for consideration. It would be a suggestion. question. And so when we think about this tax, I know that Attorney Humphrey says he's for it. I am absolutely not for it. Griffin is not for it. Jeffries is not for it. You get to make your own decision, but I want to make sure that you are clear on the why behind it, because this tax is not going to benefit you the way they say it is, especially not in the beginning for the first 10 years. Here is Hotep. There is nothing in this tax package for the human capital in the city. There's nothing for those south of 630. There's nothing in this tax package for the human capital in this city. There's nothing for those south of 630. So I know that early voting has started and you can vote today because you can vote early until November 2nd. But if you are not ready, because I'm giving you more information maybe that you had not considered, you don't have to vote today. You can go and do your homework around these issues. Because I didn't even name the issues. One of them is about marijuana. One of them is about issue number 2 is about casinos, like whether or not you believe that people should have the right to vote for the casino in their midst. Like if the people do not decide to have the casino, nobody else should decide for them. So I'm absolutely against having a board outside, some corporation, some group of philanthropists, whoever they are. I'm always for the people. So if it says, do I want the people to decide? Absolutely. So that means you're going to vote against issue 2 because issue 2 does not let the people decide. So there's so much to consider when you go in to vote, which is why we have to stop just talking about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and the former president, Donald Trump. There's so many other people that are running, that are on the ballot. I'm just talking about what's happening in Arkansas in this particular area, but there's so many other people who will determine your path, who will determine how your steps get ordered from man's perspective, from a human perspective, which in many cases defies what the divine perspective on your life is. And so we've got to be involved in this process so that we are reminding ourselves that we are going to take hold of our freedom, like Cornelius told us last week. We're going to grab hold to our freedom. We're going to live into it because we are going to participate in this process that helps us order our steps. That we know that we are divine when we get here, and we trust that. And it is our mission to allow you to see that. Like I expose it everywhere I go. You need to know when you are with me that you have been in the presence of the Spirit of the living God. Like that's who we are. We are divine expressions of the Spirit of a living God, not one that's in a book that cannot be questioned. Right? And so we have to know that part of walking into our mission and purpose as holy and sacred humans is to participate in every avenue that has some impact on our lives. And voting has a huge impact. The legislative process has a huge impact on our lives. And so we need to make sure that we are participating, and we are participating fully. So if you need some time to say, wait a minute, what you say about the question, special election, Little Rock question 1 and 2, those are the tax questions. And I'm highly, strongly encouraging that you vote against the tax, against it. And you can read about it. There is a link. Let me see if I can pull up that link. There's a link that tells you all about, I should have done this. They do an analysis on the voting process, so that you can take a look at it for yourself, because I do not want you to take my word for it. I absolutely do not want you to take my word for it. I want you to hear me, and I want you to consider what I am saying. I absolutely think it is important for you to vote according to your own conscience. So uaex.uada.edu will give you a voter guide. So it'll give you more information if you want to read it for yourself, if you want to take some time, if you want to read it over dinner with your family, if you want to take it to a powwow with your friends. Like we're trying to gather people together at my friend's house so that we can have all sides. So people from every party, whether you're independent, Republican, Democrat, Green, or whatever party you're from, we want to have a conversation. So let's talk about this, because it is very important. That's just like Lo says, vote like your life depends on it, because it does. vote like your life depends on it, he says, and I'm adding this part because it does, because that's what's on the ballot. Like our lives, the path that our lives are going to follow, like the way that our lives are going to be shaped, the way that our lives are going to be molded, it's on the ballot for you to decide on November 5th. And again, it's even if you're mad about the president, you don't want to vote for either one of them, that is your choice. But there are so many other issues and people on the ballot to vote for. So don't just get caught up in this is a presidential election. Yes, the president is on the ballot, but so is the rest of your life, right? Your local life, your federal life, like your life is on this ballot. And so when I think about Dr. Thelma Mothershed, where I was listening to Terrence Roberts, who is also one of the Little Rock Nine. He had written a tribute to her, profile of her way back in the day, and he read from it on Saturday. And he said, she was the oldest member of the Little Rock Nine, but she was also the most fragile member because of her heart condition. She had a heart condition, and they were so worried about her because what could this kind of stress, the stress of toxic racism, like this is toxic stress from institutional and systemic and social racism that they are facing every single day. Like, what impact could that have on her body? Like, they were always worried about her. But he was like, baby, she was the one who would draw the line in the sand and say, listen, I double dog dare you to cross it. Like, she would raise up in those moments. And he was like, I'm looking at her. We looking at her like we worried about you. And she is setting the tone for us, the fearlessness of it all. And so when I think about her, and then I couple that with the words that Isabel Wilkerson said when she was here talking about her book, Cast, The Origins of Our Discontent, that there were members of the Little Rock Nine who were on the front row again. And she said, somebody asked her a question about it. And she said, I'm honored to be able to breathe the same air they breathe. And when she said that, I had not even heard that before. I was like, oh my goodness, like she's right. Like, what an honor it is to share space. What an honor it was for me when they were doing the Ivy Beyond the Wall celebration. And at the end, Joy Springer says, if there are any other AKAs in the room, please stand and sing our anthem together. As most sororities and fraternities have their own anthem. And I stood up proudly to sing this song. Like, I'm here, like to be able to share this sacred space with one of the icons of my generation, for sure, many of you all's lives. Then we ought to recognize that we're in the midst of holiness when we think about the work of the Little Rock Nine and all of the people that it wasn't just those 9. We lift them up as if they were the only ones, with so many people involved in the process, so many other children willing to risk it, so many other families that were losing because of it, so many other people. So we are in many cases in this place standing on holy ground because of our history, and that holiness demands that we participate in one of the very processes that they were denied simply because of their Blackness. And so we encourage you to vote when you're ready, when you've done your homework. You've got until November 2nd to vote early. And then November 5th is the absolute last day that you can vote. And we certainly hope that you do. Thank you so much for joining me for Community Voices. You've been live right here at KABF 88.3 FM. Your girl Lola is outside the door. She's ready to come in and give you some jazz. Yeah, for the next 2 hours, it's going to be jazz. And I want to get us started with this song that I got from Mr. Henderson. It's about Bright Lights, Big City. That's the name of this song. And I think that it is important because what he's saying, this is old time. It's an old time song. Johnny Reed, what he's talking about is that some of us are so busy paying attention to the bright lights of the city that we're not realizing how we're being affected by those bright lights. Those bright lights got our attention off of what we need to be fighting for. So we are not paying attention to the things we need to pay attention to. So we need to be more careful. So I want you to join in and listen to this song. It's only about 2 minutes long. It's not going to take you long to listen to it. And then you'll have your girl Lola right here for 2 hours of jazz. Don't touch that dial. That's what you don't want to do. Don't touch that dial. I think it's Jimmy Reed. I might have said Johnny, but it's Jimmy. Sometimes I get it confused, but it's Jimmy coming on in just a minute. All right. So let me get out of here. All right. Thank you.